believe. We'll see how it works. Okay. Good stuff. Does it say we're live?
I haven't received anything. Are we not hooked to?
Yeah, we are.
Are you sure? I can go look in a sec.
Okay. Wait for some people to jump on here, but I'm not seeing it come up, but I think it's a new experience every time we do this.
It shouldn't be.
It's kind of funny.
But I don't think it's live.
Okay.
Are you sure it's hooked to Restream?
Yeah, but let me just go here and check.
Yes, we are live.
Okay. Because it's one of those things where I used to go in and change all the settings, and then as I was changing them, it was already live. So I'm like, all right, maybe we can just jump to it. And looks like you can. So ready to rock and roll here on a beautiful for Thursday.
Yes.
Well, it feels like Friday all week to me. Maybe it's because the kids are like home and then they go to school, and they're home and they go to school. Yeah. I don't know. Welcome all of you guys, gals, listeners, athletes, whoever's out there in this virtual world to One with Coach Blu and our athletic director, Marissa Robinson.
Hello.
How goes it?
Good.
Awesome. Let's get us in this.
So Coach Blu is a certified mental health therapist and a substance use disorder counselor, professional with addiction and mental health and many other parenting, life, depression, anxiety,
core
communication specialties. And
EMDR certified.
EMDR certified to help with trauma and issues like that. And I am a certified recreational therapist and addiction specialist, I guess.
There you go. You could say that. I would say that. And I think that there's a lot that you know that I don't, which is kind of a cool thing. I love the fact that you do a lot of research on what's going on in the world of pharmaceutical, MAT, all kinds of stuff, treatment aspects.
Addiction treatment. Yeah. So if you've got a question, please jump on.
Also, see that shirt you're wearing there, Marissa? Kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. I can't see it on the screen.
Yeah. So jump on our website.
We've got some new logos, some new merchandise, and I got a few yesterday. Inspire.
Mine's kind of crooked here.
Blue has to take a hike.
My chair's weird. Yep, I've got this Recreate, which is a part of the extracurricular recovery. So jump on our website, addicttoathlete.org, then get on to the team store, and you can for sure see all of our new logos and designs for our extracurricular recovery line. Let's see, our little dude in here, boss, is trying to distract us all. What do you got going on?
I'm going to power off your phone and then turn it back on, see if that works. It always helps if you don't know what's wrong with your phone or computer to power it down or do an update.
Yeah, man. You live in the 21st century. It's time to start getting techie. What's wrong with your phone?
I need to turn my lights off, but it's this.
So you can't do it with a switch. You have to do it through a phone, huh?
My LEDs and I don't know.
Man. We live in a bizarre world. Well, we'll jump into it and help you right after we get done with this. Okay, buddy. Funny. Kids these days, what a hoot. Like to turn on his LED lights, he has to use the phone app.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember those old-fashioned things called switches?
It's too much work.
Man, I'm telling you.
The app's better. Oh, yeah, except if your Wi-Fi is not working. And
it's a weird world we live in with what's perceived as being convenient is so not. How much time do you spend like programming, hooking up, trying to get into congruence apps for smart homes? I'm thinking,
but we do have the Nest, and I thought when you told me about that, I'm like, that is the dumbest thing ever. I walk out there and I can change it. But now I love it. I can lay in bed and turn on the AC or turn on the heat without getting up.
When we travel in the winter, you can turn the heat on before we get home.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have it set for certain times that it comes on or off. And
see, so there is some good things, but it's also, it's becoming a little bit of a vice in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to...
also, if your Wi-Fi goes down, like we live in a dead hole in the city of Springville, Utah. So our Wi-Fi doesn't always work. And you think that we lived in like the back country of, I don't know, Montana, where you didn't get it. No, literally a block away in either direction. you get perfect Wi-Fi.
But even still, though, in the back countries of Montana, they can now get Starlink, right? Those satellites Elon Musk put up there that everyone thought was a UFO cruising up Hobble Creek Canyon.
Yeah, last night.
It's interesting that everything now that they see in the sky is UFO.
But no.
Because
Elon Musk is hopefully bringing our hole in the ground, maybe some Wi-Fi, hopefully.
Who knows, man? But what's funny is I've been reading and hearing on the social networks that June 1st, the government's releasing a bunch of stuff on UFOs, claiming they're real and all this kind of stuff, which I've always told you they are.
Now they're saying they're real.
But it's funny because I think we're getting a little bit too creepy with it because, people are like thinking UFOs are cruising up Hobble Creek Canyon.
I watched one of our favorite TikTokers and YouTubers, Mr. Ballin.
I like that guy.
I love him. If you don't follow him, you should.
You should.
He loves sharing scary, strange, dark, and mysterious stories. But I watched his story on the Skinwalker Ranch, which you love.
Man, I don't love it. It freaks me out. We've been there. We've seen it.
Yes.
Right?
We went there a couple years ago. Not scary.
Well, you're telling me as we're standing there and that
scared.
white SUV comes flying past us at 90 miles an hour, dang near running us off.
I wasn't scared.
Really?
They didn't stop. They didn't pull out guns. They just were like, hey, they didn't say anything. You were more scared because you were thinking, who is it? And they're going to shoot us. And we're on private property. We weren't on private property yet. We were just
done a little bit more research on the Skinwalker Ranch than you have.
I watched Mr. Ballin's thing, and I've watched some of his
15-minute clip is different than the book that I've listened to.
It was like almost an hour.
Oh man!
But I don't know. I think there's something there, But
I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, technology, here we go.
I think the guy, though, the one guy, what's his name, Terry, that bought it in 94 and then sold it to the billionaire that was going to come in and research.
Mm-hmm.
Then he stayed to work there. If he was really that scared, why would he stay and work there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, good point.
Like there was some severe things that he reported happened to his family. His dogs were killed and turned into ash. He found piles of ash. And then he stays on to go, I want to
bring on more.
Help you guys.
Let's have some more of this.
Yeah. Research this scary stuff.
Good point.
I don't know.
It's well, the thing that's funny about it is the books you can't say books I've read anymore when you listen to them on audio. But when you say
Christy Long says she believes in UFOs too. See? No wonder you get along with her.
That's why I like Christy. Absolutely. I've told you this from day one. And you thought I was joking. You wait, man. June 1st, when that thing lands on the White House lawn. I'm telling you. That would be crazy. What's funny is I don't think it'd move anyone's needle anyway. I think it'd be like, another thing at this point.
Yeah.
Right? So funny. Anyway, you got me off track.
Sorry,
I can't remember what I was going to say. It really doesn't matter. Let's be honest. It doesn't matter. Anyway, listeners, welcome. It's good to have you all here. We've got some questions that you, the viewers and listeners, have submitted. But if you want to be part of the show, jump on to the Zoom link here. We'll bring you on, or you can sit there in the bullpen and listen. It doesn't really matter. Just know that this will be a podcast that will be produced and released tomorrow. So if you can't watch the whole thing in its entirety, jump on the podcast tomorrow on any platform that you like.
Please.
Marissa, our 5K is open for registration now for the Labor Day weekend on Labor Day itself.
Yes.
The Addict to Athlete annual 5K.
Monday, Labor Day, we're doing our 5K. We're hoping to do it in the place we had our first 5K in Highland Glen Park in Highland. We're not positive on that yet, but we'll be in Utah County somewhere. Yeah. But we are also offering a virtual option because we would like anyone, anywhere to be able to join us, to be able to celebrate themselves or those people that they love who are in recovery from addiction and mental health, as well as any who have passed away due to those illnesses. So this is a great way to honor your loved ones, whether they have gone or they're still here. We like to bring awareness to those who are still struggling, those who have recovered, and those who have passed on. Yeah. So please get on our website. There's the annual 5K link, and you can register right there. It's $10 to register, $15 if you're out of state and virtual, and we need to ship your stuff. And then you'll have an option to purchase a 5K shirt. Mm-hmm. Every registration will come with our 3 wristbands, red, black, and white, to represent those. Red for those who are still struggling with addiction and mental health.
Yep.
Oh, you have them right there.
Yep.
Black for those who have passed away, and white for those who have recovered.
Absolutely.
And then if you want to buy, you can purchase more.
Absolutely. And that's usually what we see happen is people buy them and then hand them out to their friends and family. But
yeah,
it's a great opportunity to run proxy for those who have lost their battle and or to remember the ones that are still out there struggling. It shows it's something you can do to show them that you know and that you remember. So kind of a cool thing. All right. Should we jump into this?
Yeah, I can't find the question. I don't always put things in the right place.
Yeah.
But I'll keep looking. But you said you had some questions.
I do.
Anyone wants to jump on or ask on Facebook, you can post your question.
Okay. So this first one comes from a listener who said, Coach Blu and Athletic Director Marissa, thank you so much for doing this weekly show. It helps me get through my week. I wanted to submit a question concerning my relationship with my parents. Although I'm now a young adult and have moved out several years ago, there's still an aspect of my relationship with my parents that I still feel is difficult. The situation is that as growing up and them having their own addictions, they treated us more like friends than as children and as parents. My biggest concern now is that my younger siblings are asking for my parents to step up to be parents, to hold boundaries and to help them navigate some of the difficult aspects of their life. I see this in my own life too. I think that parents should be parents and not friends, as I've heard Coach Blu talk about in the past. What do you recommend I do to help coach my siblings into helping my parents learn how to treat them as parents, not as friends? That's a big one, especially after having now moved out and seeing it in
more of an adult, mature mindset.
Yeah, because I think, on the cusp of maybe having your own family, there's some questions on how do I parent? I remember saying this, and I think, this person who submitted the question must have either been in a group of mine or heard this in the past, but I talk about how parents cannot be friends with your children. In fact, it was funny because I was just talking about this during our meeting with Coach Jensen not too long ago about how I would never treat my clients as friends. I just couldn't and to a certain degree, I still believe that because there's times when I have to hold boundaries with them that friends don't do. They allow certain things to slip. They allow certain things to kind of get past. Maybe there's some things they don't want to touch base on because it could ruin the friendship. When parents use that friendship approach, then they have a hard time saying no, or they have a hard time holding boundaries. It's hard. It's not easy to do because obviously we want our kids to like us. But one thing I've noticed in my life of helping individuals recover, either working through, programs or facilities, is that when I coddled them, the clients didn't grow. Yeah. It was when I would hold boundaries and when I would hold these lines that I would say absolutely not, hold these iron fist in a velvet glove type experience, that those clients, those people would respect me more. They knew I cared because I was willing to hold them accountable.
And when you do that, when you set boundaries, when you set limits, people, they don't have to guess where you are or guess how you'll react. They know. And that consistency helps people feel safe. Also, when you set limits and boundaries, mostly children, it helps them feel safety. As much as they may scream and yell and you hate me and you won't let me go out with my friends and whether it's now or later, they feel safe knowing that you care enough about them to care enough about them.
Because it takes energy.
Yeah.
It takes an awful lot of energy to parent that way. And that's what happens too when parents are in the world of addiction. And so that relationship turns more into a friendship type, like acquaintance, is that when you are a parent and you start trying to enforce parental responsibility, the kids don't respond either at times, right? Yeah. But it's interesting that she sees her siblings like asking for that.
Well, and that's my other question is, how are they asking? Is that something that she's just noticing they need? So she's saying that they're asking?
Right.
Because, when parents have gone years and years and years and they've created this habit of being a friend, they don't know that by a teenage year or a certain time, it's time to just change that. It's really hard. So if that's what a child needs, you are thinking your siblings need, you've got to teach them how to teach their parents and say, hey, this is what I need from you. It's not easy, but if you're not clear, parents just guess, and everyone guesses, and
they guess wrong. Yep. That's my classic. If you have to guess, you guess wrong. And it is. And maybe leaving the family system and now being able to see it vicariously through a different perspective.
Yeah. And being that mature viewpoint.
Absolutely. And that's one thing too, is I've always asked this about our own kids is they know the boundaries by which they play that game. Right. I say we have a good relationship with our kids. And as much as I'm sitting here preaching this, I have a hard time too, doing the parental stuff when it comes to the accountabilities and things.
We're kind of funny in this way. So when it comes to maybe clients or people, you've always been really good at being really strict and holding the boundaries. I'm not. I'm a lot more lenient. And at home, I'm the strict one. I hold the boundaries, and you're a lot more lenient.
I start to find the loopholes.
And they know that if they want something, they go to dad. And even Savannah the other day, Mom, this is why I talk to dad about stuff and not you. Because I was being a little more strong-willed as a parent would be about a topic and situation she was talking about. And I guess, I don't know how you respond.
Well, and so that puts it into perspective for me of well, then maybe I better make sure that, I'm a little bit more authoritative, because they do hear what they want to hear, even segmentally. And it's like,
because
wait
she's come to me and said, well, dad says this. And I'm like, I know dad would never say that. But her perspective, the selective hearing, she hears one part.
And how many times have we had clients do that in the past?
All the time.
It's like, well, Blue said this.
And sometimes it's manipulative in trying to only hear a certain thing. And sometimes I think it's just, I do it, when somebody says something I don't want to hear, I hear the part that I want to hear. And so we can't always blame the kids. That's not always.
No. But the one thing that you and I both hold true to is that when we really need to get on the same page, we are. And, there are some situations that we've had with our kids that they know that we're unified that way. Like I don't tolerate when they disrespect you, or when they start sassing back, right? Some Savannah sass.
Oh yeah.
Right.
The screaming Savannah.
Yeah. The screaming Savannah.
That's a story.
It's a little family joke there, but that's the thing. And so I guess what I would do is what Marissa said is, teach your siblings how to teach their parents how to work with them, which is kind of a funny thing, but that's usually how it goes. It sounds like to me that there's some responsibility within your siblings to that point to be able to recognize that. And so usually they use that as a I guess a blessing to kind of, do whatever they want. But it's a sad thing too. And I think we look at how we were parented as a way that we parent. And so some of those old habits and attributes, like you said, you come from a very strict family. You're going to, you're going to be a lot less strict. You're going to be a lot more free. There's a beautiful dance that's created through that level of accountability.
Parents have discipline. To be so self-aware in what they're doing and how they want to do it. And we all make mistakes. It's nothing that, I messed up for this many years, I can't fix it. It can be fixed, but it's going to take time and consistency.
Absolutely. So that's a great question to lead off here with. We had a reply from our last one too, Marissa, that I wanted to touch base with too.
Okay.
Last week we spoke at the beginning of the podcast about the alcoholic wine and the mothers and the things that are going that degree. I got one response back that wanted us to go a little bit more in depth with that as to the causality. And I thought we went into that to a certain degree, but they're specifically asking, and I don't have the question in front of me. It's probably lost in the interspace like yours. Yeah. But they wanted to know a little bit more about then what do they do? How do they get out of that culture? Specifically, this was an individual who said that there's a lot of social gatherings during the daytime, even when kids are at school where
play
they'll
dates
go, and have it become so frequent, and the desire of wanting to attend for the social aspects, yet having it as a I guess backdrop, this wine and relax, right?
Yeah. And if you're trying to get sober, Like, do you feel like you have to lose those friends because
And
you can't hang out?
And that was the substance of the question is I like the social aspect, but the drinking part, I can't handle anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So even as an adult, there's still a form of social pressure.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Yeah. Mostly with drinking, because people don't question. They question why you're, or I guess they don't question why you want to stop using heroin, but everyone questions, well, why not? Why not just have a drink? Why can't you just have a drink? Why shouldn't you? What? Everyone drinks. Are you kidding? That's weird. Well, no, it's not. And do you have to come out and say, well, it's because I'm an alcoholic, and have your friends think that this weird stigma around? No, I don't think you need to do that either. If you want to, absolutely. If you have friends that will understand that, but some people I think want to maybe back off from that, but don't think that they really may have a problem. But just say, hey, I don't like how I am when I'm drinking. I don't like the things I forget or the things I miss, or going home and then I just feel sick and I'm not as good of a mom. Just say that. You can say that. And if your friends can't respect that, that really sucks.
Sucks.
Maybe you need to find some new friends.
But
and I know
that's
the biggest worry. It's, what if I lose my friends?
Yeah.
And you're holding on to these friends as being the end all be all.
Yeah.
And that's where I believe you really need to do some self-searching in learning to be happy and okay by yourself.
I know where that is. Well, I think I remembered where that is. I think I put it into notes.
Okay.
I like that, because what I also found is that it's hard to make friends as you're an adult.
Very hard.
Stay-at-home moms, or even moms that work from home, they have these social networks that it's kind of a be-all end-all. And so where do they find people to associate with,
even if it's
these days?
Not that, but it's just feeling left out. You know what I mean? Like, even if they start doing other things and not inviting you, then it's, even if I'm happy, I've got friends, but I'm that way. I don't have a lot of outside social interactions.
Okay, so here it is too.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah. So, Coach Blu, quick question about the Drinking Mothers episode last week. Let me pull this up. She says, although I'm not a drinker, and although I never have been, I have friends that are. And the social aspects of being able to attend gatherings with them is getting more and more stressful, as I find the level of intoxication and wine drinking is increasing. The hardest part is I don't have a social network outside of this group. The other aspect is when they do start, I guess, feeling a little bit of the effect, they begin to badmouth things that are precious to me, things like my participation in my religion, the way that I raise my children, and even down into the never-ending trenches of politics. I love the social aspects, but it's getting more and more difficult to build relationships with these individuals when it seems like they're so preoccupied with the alcohol and the lifestyle associated with.
Yeah.
Any advice would be welcome.
Sounds like she's not really a drinker, even though that's an issue for many.
Yeah.
But just doesn't like how her friends act when they are drunk or they're drinking. They lose the inhibitions and maybe say things that they obviously wouldn't say when they're sober, which can become hurtsome.
Well, this is the big deal too, because, let's just talk about something that's near and dear and precious probably to her heart, which is, I would assume she brought it up for a reason, maybe her religion. And right now you see lots of people that are pushing away against religion, organized religion, those kind of things. And that's totally fine. It's up to the individual. But for me, for instance, right? I can't really speak for her, but for me, that saved my life. And if I didn't have that, I don't think I would be here. And it was me being able to be accountable to something and be part of something that I felt and still do is very powerful and good. Yeah. So when we see things like this being attacked and everyone thinks the same way, but you can't defend, your religion because people get pretty heavy with their opinions and whatnot.
She says about politics too. People are very opinionated when it comes to things like that.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the divide we're seeing right now in our culture and in our communities is this weird divide. I mean, I've read people's posts about like the vaccines and all this stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, at what point do we forget that everyone has their own ability to choose what's best for them?
That's
and when
okay.
we start to hate monger or we start to spread these weird things, it drives a wedge in there so deep. Who cares if my neighbor decides not to take the vaccine? It's none of my freaking business, right? And if I choose to take it, which we did, it's none of your business. But when we post it on social media and stuff, you know, we're doing those things. We're doing the same thing, you know, but it's like, it's a hard one because everyone has now a platform. Even us, we've got to be careful with our platform here on pushing agendas or things, because we can get that way. We have opinions.
Absolutely.
But I know our opinions don't match with some of our folks. One thing I love is reading Rob Rich's posts, because I love that man through and through, but our political ideas are completely opposite.
But so far, we've been able to get along.
But I love him. I love him. I love Stephanie. I love the fact
awesome.
that you know, although he can post something, I'm not going to be like, you know, I would never do that because I know Rob, you know, and some of the stuff he posts, although I don't agree with, I get why he does. Yeah. But that's the thing too, is like, why, you know, even if we put our opinions out there, are we looking for a fight? Or are we looking for people to kind of jump over and be like, oh man, well, Coach Blu posted this and I thought that was completely wrong, but because Coach Blu posted it, I'm going to believe in that. That's not right. No. Does that make sense?
Make your own.
Yeah, don't do opinions. That. Absolutely. So I look at her question as being twofold. I think the drinking allows them to be a little bit more lippy with their thoughts and their ideas. But at what point is that relationship becoming so one-sided that you're not getting what you hoped for out of it? Yeah.
Friendships should go both ways. Obviously, there's times where in friendship, there's more work on one side because maybe somebody's going through some hard times and some troubles. And then there's a time you're struggling. But if you're starting to feel like it's very one-sided or that you're not getting out what you put into it, then there's a couple options. Yeah. Either do you feel safe enough? Do you feel strong enough that when your friends are sober that you bring it up and you talk to them? They probably don't have any idea they're doing or saying that and offending you. And I think they'd want to know.
Well, I think we've also forgotten the fact that it is 110% your choice to be offended by something. Yeah. No one can offend you unless you allow it.
Absolutely.
And I think we're forgetting that. People get so offended these days. You know, cancel culture is very much a real thing. And all these things that people get so offended by when it's like, that is not the person, it's you. Yeah. And it's really hard to offend me because I've learned that principle. And so, you know, there's things that I'm like, well, I just don't want to spend the emotional energy with this situation. So I'm going to remove myself. But offended, people taking offense, you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, why does this offend me? Right. And that's the thing too. I mean, like for me, let's boil it down to family, because I had to leave family behind in my own recovery. I realized that relationship, maybe as with my mom, let's say, that relationship didn't exist. It was something completely different. And so was I willing to sacrifice that relationship that didn't exist for the hopes and pursuits of something of greater value? Think about that for a second, right?
Was it worth it to push to, you know, try to set up times to meet and get along and talk to each other because she's your mom or because these are your friends? Is it worth it to you to hang out? Do you come out at the end of the day, you know, after going to these luncheons and you feel worse about yourself, or you're just drained emotionally?
Yeah. Right? So for me, when I'm like, well, let's put this to the test, and that relationship ended, it actually, to a certain degree, got better, because it wasn't so much the anticipation or the expectations that I would have for a quote unquote mother figure. Right. And it was cool. I was doing some stuff with KP a week or two ago, and he brought some stuff up too that was kind of awesome about, like, when you get into that forgiveness pattern, I really feel like I've forgiven a lot of the stuff that's went on between, history and whatnot. But I also know that when I invest in that relationship, I know what I'm getting in return. Yeah. So if I choose to invest in that relationship, I cannot be surprised at the outcome.
Or upset or frustrated when mom does A, B, and C, which she's always done, A, B, and C.
Yep. Absolutely. So to me, I'm thinking maybe that's the same thing.
Yeah.
If you're willing to maintain those friendships, because I'm sure there's some good times, not
Yeah.
just the bad times, please be aware of the return on investment.
Yeah.
We talk about this with Dr. Paul a lot. We talk about, what box are you?
Yeah.
And this is kind of a cool thing, right? Box number one, let's look at box number one. If you can envision maybe that slot machine, Las Vegas,
Las
right?
Vegas slot machine.
You walk into the Las Vegas slot machine
number
everyone's winning. You sit down right next to you. You just got paid, so you're a high roller. You slide in a $100 bill, pull that handle, all the bells and the whistles, ding, ding, ding. And on return, zero.
Nothing.
But you're like, hey, winners, losers, no big deal. So you put another
Everyone
$100
else is
in.
winning, so I'll win.
Yeah, eventually. So you put another $100 in, pull the handle, bells and whistles, out comes $0.
Yeah.
But you're like, well, third time's the charm, right?
Yeah.
So you put another $100 bill in there, you pull the handle, bells and whistles, out comes
Nothing.
$0. How long you want to stay there,
Yeah.
right? Well, 3 is an odd number, and we don't like odd numbers. So put another $100, $400 in, pull the handle, bells and whistles, out comes
$0.
$0.
But then you're like prime numbers. So let's go a little higher.
Let's go a little higher. You're right. There's all these justifications. I love it.
Yeah.
So, but pretty soon, maybe you're like, screw this machine. I'm
Maybe
going to
this
the next
isn't
one.
working.
Maybe the lady next to you, you notice she was pulling money out. And so as soon as she leaves, you slide over to that next machine, box number 2. So you slide into box number 2, put in your $100, pull the handle, out comes $100. Well, hey, that's pretty dang awesome.
Yeah.
Right? It's better than the first one.
At least came out even, right?
Yeah.
there,
So you
right?
put another $100 in, pull the handle, out comes $100.
All right.
Maybe even you start realizing that I think this is the same $100 bill that I'm putting in, right? But at least you're not losing.
Yeah.
But even after years of putting in that 100, it never increases. That's what you get back. You're like, hey, the person next to me vacated. I'm
Oh.
gonna slide over to this one. So you go to box
And you
number
noticed
3.
they were winning.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You notice they were happy and jovial.
okay.
So you slide over to that machine, put in $100, pull the handle, out comes $200. Now we're talking.
200.
Every time you put that $100 bill in, you pull the handle, bells and whistles, out comes $200 bucks. You are increasing each time.
Yeah.
So maybe you, instead of just taking a $100 bill, you put $200 in and out comes $400. So you're investing more in this machine and you're getting more in return, which means you put more
That's
in.
a good machine.
It's a good machine. How long would you stay there?
I wouldn't move.
Forever.
Yeah.
Right?
I would.
Forever.
Why take the chance and move back to that one that's taking your money?
I wonder why that person left this machine. Maybe they grew old. But we use that analogy as relationships, don't
Yeah.
we?
Think about the relationships in your life compared to these 3 slot machines.
So if I'm in a relationship where I'm investing $100 of emotional currency, maybe that's producing, maybe that's saying I love you, maybe that's showing your love through whatever love language
being
you
there
have.
when they're struggling and you're listening and you're the shoulder to cry on.
Yeah. But they're giving you nothing in return. Okay. And each time you do it, you're thinking, but I'm investing all this emotional money and currency into this relationship. Why am I not getting anything back?
Mm-hmm.
People stay in those relationships for years.
Remember,
And they
like
just
when
keep
we were sitting
thinking.
there, well, maybe it's this. And if I put more, it's got to get paid back in time. And you sit there and you think about those relationships and think, well, this friend of mine or this loved one is really, really struggling. They can't give back right now. So if I keep giving, they'll get stronger. And then this will be more of a mutual friendship.
Yeah.
But what if years and years, even decades go by and it doesn't change?
Doesn't change.
Is that a worthwhile relationship to stay in?
And you're emotionally bankrupt, yet you're finding money to keep putting into this machine because I've put so much into this over this amount of time that I know I'm just one away from the jackpot.
Yeah.
But guess what? Never happens.
Jackpot isn't coming.
Those other relationships, okay, where you put in 100 and you get 100, those are great. Those are fantastic,
Yeah. Those
right?
are good.
But no gain, no increase. It's just coexisting. Right. Those relationships are like everyone knows their chores, everyone knows their responsibilities, and it just becomes kind of this machine.
Yeah.
Right.
And those are good.
Those are good. You
know.
can raise families on that. You can
Yeah.
have love for one another. But it's kind of just this mediocre existence. Right.
Yeah.
But then there's box number 3. And I like this analogy so much because let's say I invest $200 of emotional currency into Marissa. She gives me back, 200, right? And then I put that 200 and I'm like, well, I've got this now. So I'm going to invest 300 into her. And then on return, I get 600. But at the same time, she's investing that with me. And so because she sees that there's producing happening,
I give more.
She gives more to me.
Get even more in return.
So it's not just a one-way street here.
Yeah.
But the cool part about that is that we both know each other's value. We both know, that, and don't get me wrong, there have been times in life where we couldn't give. And so we slid back into box number 2.
Or box 1.
Or box 1 even. Yeah. But what we've done is we've learned over the process that there are stages to this love, right? Mm-hmm. There's we can get into that in another podcast, but look at your relationships with your friends and see that when I invest $100 of emotional currency into this group of women that I'm associating with, do I get anything in return? Chances are maybe you do. Outside of the group, maybe it's when you catch one of them one-on-one, or maybe it's, maybe it's they listen to you despite some of your differences. So don't sacrifice those relationships yet until you're sure that that's what's happening.
But I think it's also identifying where it is, maybe you get to the point you recognize, I'm not getting a lot out of this, and you're not willing to maybe talk to them openly and honestly. Maybe you are, and things change. Mm-hmm. Well, fabulous, stay there. But maybe it's time to even just expand your group.
Right.
Maybe, I've had friends that we had lots of things in common, did lots of things together, and then life got in the way and things changed, and soon they're doing this and I'm doing that, and it just didn't work out. That always happens too. We grow mature in the things we like. I used to have a group of friends that we'd always go running with, we've all done different things now. Maybe it's time to invest in a ceramics class. Something that maybe you have some interest in, or a photography class, or find your tribe somewhere else and start building some relationships with people that do things you currently enjoy.
You know what's interesting?
Maybe you enjoyed having those drinking luncheons, and now you're like, I'm kind of grown out of it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You can find something else.
What's interesting about that too? Adults making friends. That's a whole topic in and of itself.
It's so hard for people.
Right. And I joke about this a lot, but early on, I would say it's not easy for someone in recovery to make friends, because it's not like it was when we were kids. When you're kids and you watch your children go to the playground or splash pad, they make friends almost instantly, right? Yeah. It's kind of cool to watch. It's like if you're the same height, it doesn't matter what skin color or whatever, you're friends.
Yeah.
Adults are a little bit different because, obviously we'd get in trouble if we went to a playground and tried to pick up friends, right? Be like, hey, psycho. But, one thing that I found very interesting was a friendship that I developed with Brock Bevel and Max Hall. Mm-hmm. It was interesting. Brock Bevel was introduced to me from an old ward member who moved to Mesa, Arizona.
A friend of ours, yeah.
Bumped into Brock, said, hey, there's, you do this kind of stuff. And there's this guy in Salt Lake who used to be our bishop. He does this stuff. Maybe you guys should talk to her. Brock reached out to you and said, I want to be a guest on your podcast. And we're like, that's weird. Usually we call people, right?
Yeah.
But when Brock and I talked and we learned each other's stories and stuff, there was this awesome kind of connection. And then Max Hall came in because Brock interviewed Max Hall. I interviewed him for the podcast. Now, Max, Brock, and I are really good friends.
Yeah.
We've been doing podcasts with the Agents of Recovery since
January. Yeah.
They've
6 months.
They've all been to our house with their spouses. I know for a fact I could call Brock or Max right now and be like, hey guys, I'm struggling with this or whatnot. And they'd be on it.
And you guys text each other throughout the week, send funny jokes, or, just catching up, and you've made new friends.
And all
as
it
an adult
was communicating.
Yeah.
It was about,
and it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Brock being, I guess, vulnerable, brave enough, courageous enough to just reach out.
Yeah.
And you guys get along so well.
Yeah. And it's kind of a funny thing there too, because
it's a great podcast.
What happens is as adults, we get these barriers of no one, self-esteem still kind of in the pits. Yeah. No one's going to want to hang out. I'm telling you, you can still build relationships with people. I've watched addict to athletes relationships increase tenfold. We were talking about this last Tuesday, at our meeting, where I'm looking around and I'm seeing these athletes step up to start producing, like Holly and the Dyers.
Well,
all
and
these
you
people.
Talked about that with Tracy, a newcomer to our group, came a couple weeks ago and was trying to, like a lot of people do, come to the meeting discussion part and sneak out. And Krista went and kind of caught her and grabbed her and said, come walk with me.
Yeah.
And that just meant the world to her. She didn't feel like, I don't know, some people think, oh yeah, they don't want to stay, but she wanted somebody to reach out like that.
Absolutely.
And Krista did it. And now she stays. She's been coming almost consistently.
The cool part about that is Krista needed Tracy.
Yeah.
Because Tracy is a powerful individual, right? And so by having a little bit of that, like, I guess, courage to say, hey, let me get to know you. Now look.
Yeah.
It's one of the neatest things. So it can be done. It really can be done.
And I just noticed the other day, some really good friends of mine who I'm still friends with, but I guess have been going to lunch every month for a long time. And I've never been. I don't know if I was invited. And I was kind of like hurt by that. Like, what? Why haven't I gone? And then I was like, pay attention here, Marissa. Like, it's almost like I have to talk to myself. Like, think back a ways. If I didn't know this was going on, if they called and invited me, I probably wouldn't go.
Right.
I often don't do that. Is that, I don't know why. I'm kind of a pain that way. But also I'm really busy and not that they aren't, but I'm sure that I've easily could have put off in the past that I'm too busy for you guys. And so they didn't invite me. Yeah. So could I take it as a really sad, like, oh yeah, I could. But I'm also like, really, Marissa, like, I have to talk to myself, pull yourself together. Like, there's times they've done things in the past and you haven't gone. So they probably got the idea.
An opportunity too, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. They probably got the idea you didn't want to come.
Right.
So they didn't invite. It's not like, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
There's so many things we could easily take personally. And I really had to talk myself down.
Yeah.
And be like, let it go.
We talked about this with our kids about being invited to certain things. And it's like at that age, I highly doubt those kids who are trying to do this to hurt your feelings. It's just, they didn't register that you even wanted to go.
They may have not even thought about inviting me because they were all at something together and said, hey, let's go to lunch. And then it just happened 100%. To be a lunchtime thing. Like we have an Addict athlete women's group that often goes to lunch. It's been a while. I've been one time. So it's like, I have opportunities, but I haven't always taken them. So I can't feel bad if people are going out to lunch and not inviting me.
If they don't invite you.
Oh, well,
So there's so much to this. This could be an awesome, maybe bonus episode too for the Patreon, but I think it's kind of a neat thing. So evaluate your relationship with these individuals. Yeah. If it's not producing or creating value in your life, let's start reevaluating. And if you start reevaluating,
talk to them too.
Yeah.
Find your tribe. If you can be brave enough. Otherwise, expand your tribe, find other things that you're interested in, wanting to do and willing to do. And you go do those things, you're going to find people that you connect with because they're doing things you enjoy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think
or people you want to be like, go show up at the places they hang out.
Yep.
That's what we talk about with Addict Athlete. When you became a mountain biker, you didn't find friends to go mountain biking with.
No.
You went and bought a bike and went mountain biking and met people. Absolutely. You had to do that first.
You know what happened first, even before that mountain biking experience? I went country line dancing. Holy crap, that sucked. You knew this. So there was you knew this. There was a time.
Who has no rhythm?
I have zero.
Like I always thought growing up, you
don't even have to tell them that. I'm sure they can look at me and realize I have zero.
I was like, I'm going to marry a man that can dance.
Man.
That has rhythm.
You ever seen Elaine from Seinfeld? Yeah. I make her look good.
Yeah. He's like Elaine.
But that was the thing, right? Is early in my recovery, some coworkers who I would never give the time of day to because they weren't my tribe.
Yeah.
Invited me to go to this. They said if they want to go to this club, and I'm like, well, that sounds funny. Like, all right. I didn't realize it was a country line or country like I don't know, dance club. I don't know what it was.
Country night at the like they don't have
some place anymore. In really, Sandy or I don't even remember where it was, but it was funny. I go walking in there, and they're all like doing the boot scoot boogie.
I love it.
And I'm like, what the F is this? And I hung out there for an hour or two, and I'm like, well, it's been real, and I left. But it got me out of the comfort zone, and it made me realize that I don't like country line dancing at all.
But sometimes you do need to try things more than once.
That's it too. But I thought that, it's one of those things I told you about the time I got invited to the party. And I'm like, at that point, it was after the country line dancing experience by other coworkers.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, all right, I'm done. I've tried stuff already. Now I'm going to go out and party sounds great. Well, hopefully they have my kind of alcohol there. I go there and literally it was a party with food and
Cookies and punch.
drinks and cookies and punch. And
That was not spiked.
They were literally playing Yahtzee. Remember that game?
Yes.
Freaking Yahtzee. Whatever happened to Yahtzee?
People have parties like that. But for Blue, this was like,
I was like,
what? You really have punch?
I walked in and there were lights
And
on and you could
cookies?
see everybody and the music was low, but people were talking and they're like, Yahtzee. And I'm like, what the F? But it was cool because again, it was like, not what I expected, but I put myself out there. It was soon after that I got into the mountain biking and that took off for me. That was my niche. It took me a few experiences to like get involved. So it's kind of a funny thing, putting yourself out there, specifically if you're new in recovery. That's why I love it when people come to Addict to Athlete as kind of their social networking, because
it's a scary thing to even try something new.
Yeah. And the other thing too, like we said, we don't typecast ourselves into that paradigm. We don't do the sober softball or the sober bowling or all that kind of stuff. Those are great, but you're not abnormal. You can associate with people that may or may not have had that problem in the past.
Yeah.
You're not.
I love it. We have a new woman who found us and joined our Utah County. We have the Addict Athlete Home Base Facebook group, which we would love anyone to join. But we also have chapter groups so that we can kind of do logistics of like, hey, we're meeting here on Sunday, where people, like we have Joe in our home base. Well, he lives in England. He's not going to know if everyone says we're going to meet at the Green Monster. So we have the local places they can meet up. And a lady posted yesterday and said, hey, I'm new here. I can't come on Tuesdays to the meeting, but I'd love to know of any other events. And Holly immediately, we have a running clinic every Saturday, come on out. And so she's going to go Saturday.
I love it.
It's awesome.
It's the coolest thing.
Do it.
So, man, we got long-winded on that.
Yes,
I saw someone has a question with the remaining time. Want to jump on?
We've got Selena. I'm going to move over.
Awesome. Very cool. Great topics today.
Yeah. I hope that wasn't too long of an answer.
Not really, but see how fast that went? My goodness, we're almost there. Selena.
Hello.
It's good to see you this fine Thursday afternoon.
Good to see you. I was just watching your meeting last night, and I love the theme of it and the talk, and it really has brought to my mind triggers, how many triggers that I have, and still, and how I manage them. Some days I manage them well, some days I don't manage them well, and so that's something that I'm really wanting to work on, and was just wondering what advice you had to help when those triggers hit. I mean, I love to run, but I can't go run every 20 minutes. You know what I mean?
You need other plans.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
I need a plan B, C, D, because
all the way through Z. That's what I tell clients. A through
Selena.
Z. Yeah. So our lesson on Tuesday was on the blind side. So the concept of, when somebody gets hit on the blind side in football, they don't know it's coming and it just comes out of nowhere. So what are some ways?
It's cool.
I guess that's what it was.
With the blind side.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I said,
no, that's good.
But
it's very similar.
It is when you're blindsided.
Yep. Blindsided by an event or
by a person. So the first thing is to, again, like we talked about even in this forum here, was evaluating if you're taking offense to it. If it's something if it's a trigger that's causing some kind of offense to you, like you're offended by it, then we got to evaluate why. Because, again, if someone says something or even does something that I see or that I catch wind of or something that I don't approve of, do I allow myself to go down that emotional path of offense? And if it is, then why, right? A lot of times when I look at that and people do things or say things that kind of like could be offensive, I kind of reframe it in my own mind of like, all right, so you don't agree with what they've said or what they've done. So either you can be mad at them and be offended by it, or you can have a broken heart for them and say, man, that's too bad. That's sad. That's sad. It's disappointing. And I label that stuff, Selena, a lot. Specifically when people are sometimes attacking me directly, I don't take it personal because I realize that they're saying it because, believe it or not, it sounds funny, but I must be a safe person in their life to be able to attack me like that, because if they did that with somebody else, they'd probably get punched in the face, right? And it's not that I'm taking a beating emotionally for them, but it's like, wow, that's very interesting. And most of the time when people talk bad or they do things behind my back or whatnot, when I do approach them and say, hey, help me understand this, they change their story very quickly, because it's a little easier to do it online or behind closed doors. Or we've had this on Team Addict to Athlete before, Selena, where we've had people, on the team, athletes that have gotten together in a group and they've kind of murmured together and thought about different things about the team. And how come we're paying, $15 for a shirt when it costs, you can get it at cost for like $5 here. What are Blue and Marissa doing with the money? And it's kind of a funny thing, because it's like, well, guys, we're using the money to keep all this stuff going. But what's interesting about it is I could take offense by that and be like, they have no idea, like the hours we put into this, the time, the energy, the resources that go into this. They don't see all that stuff. All they see is that price for a t-shirt's $15 when you can get it down the street from Joe Schmo for $5. Or something like that. So when offense comes my way, a twofold street is, am I taking offense to it? And if so, why? Because it's not about them, it's about me. And my biggest kind of like, I guess, flex is that I don't give them the attention that they want. I just remove it. I just pull back and I'm like, well, I can see how you see it that way. And if that's how you feel, it's interesting. We have an athlete right now, a former athlete, that keeps sending these real horrible messages and stuff. And he's kind of getting himself into some hot water here, because we keep everything that he sends. But it's like, Marissa and I were watching something on our phone and it came through and it's very, very verbally aggressive. And I'm like, noted. Mm-hmm. We just kept moving. In fact, we haven't talked about it until just right now. Yeah. And so we don't allow it to affect us because it's none of our business. Does that make sense?
I always say, yes, be like a duck. Ducks, when water hits a duck, it beads up and rolls off. And so sometimes it's just repeating that in your head. Be like a duck. Let it roll off my back. Let it roll off my back. I also believe. Go ahead.
I'm going to try that, because the first thing I do, I have issues with that. It's like, I let it it knocks me down. Like I get blindsided while I fall down, instead of just like being able to stand strong and just go, just like what you said, don't react to it. That's what's
funny, Selena, is that when you do that, people get really upset. It's kind of like we talked about, like people that attack religion, right? When people attack my religion, I just let them go. Cause I'm like, I'm not going to lower myself to your standard. And although I would love to like get in that verbal disagreement with you, it's not worth my time. So it's kind of funny when people get on, they do religious stuff and they start like, they're trying to quote history books and all this stuff. I just shake my head and I'm like, if that's the path you want to take, fantastic. But you weren't there when I was at my lowest, and I felt that presence. So whatever literature you're pulling up about ponies and horses that weren't here during that time, I don't give a crap, because I felt something that I cannot even describe, and I wouldn't waste it. Now I could say that, but I'm like, let them feel that way, because I'm going to maintain who I am. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a cool thing. I told my daughter this too. I said, when someone really pushes your buttons, and I say this to some people, if I ever say this to you, you know that I'm mad at you. It's noted. And if I take that note, if I say noted, that means I'm done. Like, I'm not fighting with you, but I know who you are now.
I'll remember.
Here we go. Yeah. And it's been funny. It's been funny in my life to be able to do that, but I don't allow other people to dictate how I feel. I'm just not going to do that. Right. It's disappointing and it's sad. A lot of times they come from some misunderstanding, but there's a certain sense of power and strength that comes from allowing it to roll off your back like a duck.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love how you just say noted. And then, like, okay, that person is not who I thought they were.
It makes people so mad. I've only used it a handful of times, but when my daughter,
he does it in his head a lot.
Yeah. When my daughter said it to people before, where she's been in some kind of disagreement and she's like, noted. And like, what is that supposed to mean? And it makes me mad because they don't know. How do you fight that? You don't.
The other thing to me, if you're looking at, we always try to use a lot of, fitness and, sports analogy when you're looking about the blind side and something coming out of nowhere. You can't prepare for things that come out of nowhere. Yeah. But yes, you can. The way you can prepare is by strengthening yourself. that you're more agile, that you have more skills to utilize, like we talked about on Tuesday, to utilize your team. When it comes to the quarterback, he has to be able to use his team to be able to help protect him. They're the eyes behind his head to kind of give him that support. But you've also got to strengthen yourself, that you get hit, that you're strong enough to bounce back up, that you're strong enough to adjust and to move when you need to, that you're staying flexible, that you're not being really rigid in what you're doing. That's how we get stronger to be able to address triggers and blindside, the pandemic. No one could prepare for that really.
Yeah.
And just being able to have positive self-talk, that you're more optimistic and that you can go, you know what, this isn't going to last forever. I've done harder things. I can do harder things. I can get through this. To have a friend and, support system that you can reach out to and utilize no matter what it is, that you can react better.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great advice. Yeah. And I love that. And I love that I am working on that, loving myself more, that I'm, no matter what, they can't take away who I am, my value, my personality, my service, my love,
Yep.
And I'm trying to let that pop into my head, but it's a hard thing for me because I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I really get my feelings hurt easier than I should. So
you have years and years of allowing those negative feelings and negative people and negative thoughts to eat at you. So it's fighting back on that, like, and proving,
35 years. I've got a long time to get it change it around, but
it's totally possible. It's you just going, but wait a second, and proving to yourself, I've done this before and I am better than that. And you have to really counteract those negative thoughts that like, I'm worthless. No, you just start saying, this is why I'm worth it. And this, and I've done this, and I'm not a useless, whatever it is you say in your head, and then
a useless piece of crap. That's my biggest, that's how I talk to myself sometimes.
Yeah.
And that has come from my history, but I feel bad for Warren some days because he will say like the smallest things that aren't even rude. And I just like totally go back to that, and I hate that my brain allows me to do that. So that's a goal I'm really working on. It's
if you listen, I don't know if you've listened to it, but I highly recommend going and listening to the Agents of Recovery podcast that we just did last week. We talk about this specifically.
The one Tuesday or the week before?
This last one Tuesday. So this last, what was that?
What are you?
It's called Where Are You?
Or Where Are You?
Yeah. And we talk about this in depth, meaning that if you get hit on a blind side, to take a knee and to reevaluate. Meaning if you get hit by that blind side and something hurts, don't just react, and take a knee, which means stop the ball, stop the play.
Take a timeout.
And see where that's coming from. Do your best not to react, but to act, meaning take control of it.
Take a bigger picture, a different perspective, and trying to see it differently so that you can then make a game plan to move forward differently. Because
that ability will help you so much. And it was interesting that podcast we just did with Max and Brock, powerful. There's a lot of principle in there, and it talks a lot about what we're discussing right now to go a little bit more in depth.
I'm going to I'll be running this afternoon, so I'll listen to that.
The Agents of Recovery. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome, Selena.
Thanks. And
absolutely.
Have a good, long, fun weekend.
Oh, yes. Awesome. That's true. We're going to do that as a family.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's see, Marissa, let's thank our Patreons. Yes. Patreon subscribers, thank you so much. Your efforts are helping us move this podcast forward. You're helping us be able to get this into the ears of those who need it. It's very humbling to see how many supporters we have, which is so great.
I love it.
If you want to become a Patreon supporter, jump on patreon.com/addicttoathlete. And we have several tiers that we'll be able to pick from. $2 a month gives you all of our bonus content, which is kind of nice, man. Yeah. And what's funny, we don't have very many people on that tier, which is interesting. Yeah. I thought that might be one of the bigger ones because shoot, why not get a little bonus content? And we do do some deep dives on that. So if you want all the bonus episodes of the Addict Athlete podcast, $2 a month. Tiers above that qualify you for merchandise, special features, perks, all kinds of exclusive offers and things that come to you because of your Patreon support. And I want to thank our super fans, Jerem Thurston, Holly Davies, Scott Foster, Coach Chris Williams, Brett Frew, Coach Tara Butson, the Warrior Within podcast and personal development by Sensei KP, and Steve Riggs.
And Chelsea Olson.
I'll add Chelsea onto that one too.
Yeah.
Thank you, super fans.
Thank you, guys. Thank
so
you,
much.
Chelsea.
Yeah, I love our super fans. Our rookie level subscribers, we've got Kenny Roseman, Earl Dyer, and Joe Jackson. Thank you so much, you guys. Pro level subscribers, thank you so much. You just heard from her, Selena Armitage, Gary Thurston, Josh Hansen, Rowena Catrone. She's on that for some reason.
Oh,
I love Rowena. She's awesome.
She's a fan.
Well, Rowena, there you go.
Thank you.
Love you to death. And for some reason, last week, it sounded like everyone could hear her, but we couldn't.
I guess.
I think we've solved that. I don't know how,
hopefully.
but we did. All right. Our championship level subscribers. These guys are at the top of the tier. And from the bottom of my heart, you guys are,
thank you.
are helping with the backbone of the lifting. Thank you so much. Shad and Freya Robinson, the Robinson family, Ron and Dee Loesch, and Tracy Whitby. Thank you all so much for your support.
Couldn't do it without you.
We couldn't. And the more we can get on here, the further we're going to be able to expand and hopefully bring some cool stuff with you. Patreons, thank you so much. Jump on the website, addict2athlete.org. You'll find all of our content, free merchandising through the store, right? Here coming in the next couple of weeks, the 10-year anniversary champion shirt will no longer be available. So jump on there and get it while you can, because that's going to end.
Probably have through July, maybe.
Yep. And we're going to be releasing a very special limited time only shirt for the 4th of July.
Yes. U.S. Patriotic Americana.
It's good. Awesome. Josh Hansen's helped us with our logos, so we can't thank him enough. They look awesome. So jump on there, see what we've got. Thank you, Radio Ronin, the Radio Ronin family, for hosting Team Addict to Athletes podcast. We appreciate all that you do. They've also started the Radio Ronin TV. Hilarious episodes.
YouTube.
And did you know that Addict to Athlete has a YouTube channel?
We do.
Jump on, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We have over 200 videos on there.
Yeah.
So there's some short ones, there's some long ones, there's some of our podcasts, but please go subscribe to our
YouTube. Yeah, it's great. I'll be releasing one about the second chapter of buying a bike online that we were able to do. So jump on that. You'll see how to buy a bike online. So all you athletes that want to become part of the Addict Athlete cycling team, it'd be awesome. Check out our social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're all over the place. Share some of that stuff, get our message out. And until next time, go turn that mess into a very powerful message.